If the brass at ESPN handed me a pink slip right now, I wouldn't bat an eye. You want to know why? Because I've got a safety net waiting for me in Boston. Kendrick Perkins might finally be paying the price for running his mouth a little too freely recently, and believe it or not, it has absolutely zero to do with his wild basketball opinions. This time, he picked a fight with the heavyweight champion of sports media, Stephen A. Smith. In today's video, we are going deep into the escalating war between Perkins, Smith, and the corporate giant that is ESPN. But before we ring the bell for round one, smash that subscribe button for front row seats to the drama. Now, let's look at the Perkins-Smith friction. Big Perk linked up with ESPN back in 2019. He had hung up his sneakers in 2018 after grinding out 14 seasons and grabbing a ring with the 08 Celtics. Stephen A. Smith, on the other hand, has been an ESPN pillar since 2003, transitioning from a gritty newspaper beat writer at the Philadelphia Inquirer. Eventually, the network suits threw them into the pressure cooker of First Take. The real spark started flying during the 2020 bubble season. Perkins came at topics with the raw mentality of a guy who just left the locker room, basing his arguments on on-court grit. Smith countered with the polished perspective of a media titan, weaving narratives, star power dynamics, and theatrical shouting. It was oil and water. Perkins was a sledgehammer, Smith was a megaphone. The audience clocked the tension instantly. By May 2021, the gloves came off over the Sarah Brooklyn Nets. Perk trashed Smith's hype regarding the super team, while Smith attacked Perkins' logic on how rosters are constructed. Fast forward to March 15th, 2022, and things got ugly during the Jokic versus Embiid MVP debate. Perkins was lobbying for Embiid when Smith steamrolled him mid-sentence. Perk took the beef to Twitter, posting, "Let me finish my thought next time." Smith just quote tweeted it with a laughing face. That was how they settled it with emojis. Then came June 1st, 2023. During an NBA Finals preview, Perk claimed the Nuggets had no killer instinct against the Heat. Smith's volume went to 11. Perkins snapped, "Stephen A., you're only screaming because you know I'm right." Smith fired back, "No, Perk, I'm screaming because you are wrong once again." ESPN loved it, plastering the clip everywhere. Later, Perkins appeared on The Stephen A. Smith Show, and they laughed it off. Smith smoothed it over, claiming, "We just push each other to be great." But in February 2024, shots were fired regarding LeBron James and his influence on coaching hires. Smith played defense for LeBron on First Take. Perkins attacked the man, not the argument. "Stephen A., you're too tight with LeBron." Smith went nuclear. "I've been covering this league longer." "Then you've been retired. Don't you dare question my objectivity." Host Molly Querim had to step in. The reaction on platform X was split down the middle. Some backed Perk for keeping it 100, while others respected Smith's tenure. "No, I'm sorry" was ever uttered. Yet, they sat side by side on the next show like nothing happened. The whole blow-up and makeup cycle took less than 24 hours. In July 2024, the battlefield was the Team USA Olympic squad. Perkins demanded minutes for young blood like Jason Tatum, while Smith wanted the vets. Suddenly, Perk flipped the script and interrupted the master interrupter. He commanded, "Let me talk, Stephen." Smith actually froze, letting the silence hang in the air before finally yielding. "All right, Perk, teach us." That rare moment of Smith being silenced racked up over 500,000 views on YouTube. If you love seeing the tables turn, hit that like button right now. On January 20th, 2025, the MVP ladder debate got personal. Perkins put Shai Gilgeous-Alexander over Jokic. Smith scoffed, "Perk, your takes are getting unhinged." Perkins played the ultimate trump card. "At least I played the game. You're just a talking head." Dead silence. Smith broke the tension with, "Respect the resume, Perk." Legends like Shaq backed Perkins on social media, validating that the "I played" argument hits different for anyone who actually wore the jersey. Smith addressed the fallout on his podcast, insisting, "Perk and I battle, but it's all love." Then, on March 10th, 2025, they had a meta argument about media bias, not about a player, but about their own industry. Perkins accused, "Stephen A., you are part of the problem." Smith retorted, "I am the solution." The ratings don't lie. The blog Awful Announcing praised the segment for its brutal honesty. They even high-fived when the cameras cut. That debate about how the media spins narratives was a hit because It admitted what we all knew. These two are colleagues and rivals trapped in a format that requires conflict to print money. Then came February 2026. On February 8th, Perkins dropped the bomb on NBA Countdown. If ESPN fired me today, I wouldn't lose no sleep. Just 2 days later, on February 10th, back on First Take discussing a Pistons-Hornets dust-up, Perkins told Smith, "Fix your attitude." Smith laughed it off. "Perk, you're the one getting hot." ESPN put it in the highlight reel. On the surface, no bad blood, but earlier that week, Perkins had dropped a breadcrumb, casually mentioning that somebody in Boston would hire me, a comment that drew ironic jeers from Celtics fans who supposedly celebrated his ban from team functions. Here is the pattern. Perkins says something wild. Smith pushes back hard. The volume spikes. The clips go viral. The next morning, they reset the board and do it all over again. Analysts at The Ringer have likened this to pro wrestling choreographed chaos designed to keep eyeballs on the screen. Bleacher Report. Critics are asking if this circus act is killing real sports journalism, pushing away fans who actually want deep dives instead of shouting matches. But the ratings tell a different story. Stephen A. is banking the biggest checks at the network. And Big Perk, he secured a massive renewal in 2024. That tension isn't a bug, it's the feature. In a GQ sit-down from 2025, Perkins laid it out. We push each other's buttons on purpose. That's the secret sauce. Behind the scenes, they're actually cool, teaming up for charity gigs like the 2024 NBA Cares Drive, proving the screaming matches are just business, built on mutual respect. But let's talk about the noise surrounding Kendrick Perkins. People screaming for his job isn't a new trend started by Stephen A. This storm has been brewing for years, fueled by hot takes that cross the line, shady business moves, and on-air exchanges that make everyone squirm. The biggest explosion? That happened back in March 2023. Perk went on Time's First Take Times and dropped a bombshell, claiming 80% of MVP voters were white. Alleging this demographic rigged the voting for guys like Nikola Jokic, Steve Nash, and Dirk Nowitzki, the backlash was instant and brutal. JJ Redick looked like he was about to lose it, accusing Perk of basically calling the white electorate racist. Over on TNT, Sir Charles didn't hold back, blasting the comments as asinine, silly, and stupid. ESPN actually had to do damage control the next day, with Molly Querim reading a statement to clarify that the voting pool is diverse and public. It was a total embarrassment for Perkins and the network that let it fly unchecked. Before we get into the next scandal, make sure to *** smash that like button and subscribe *** for more sports deep dives. That MVP drama lit up social media and still haunts the NBA subreddit. Fans went wild, calling it reckless reporting and demanding pink slips. Then, in October 2024, ESPN dropped a report on Nilly, a startup Perk launched with Wall Street guy Chris Riccardi. The pitch? Offering student athletes quick cash, $25,000 up to six figures in return for 10, to 50% of their NIL earnings for up to 7 years. Financial pros like Michael Haddix Jr. and Chris Peterson tore it apart, calling it predatory and comparing it to loan sharks targeting broke college kids. They set these deals up as licensing agreements instead of loans to dodge repayment laws if the player busted, but it also bypassed truth in lending rules. The fine print was nasty, letting Nilly cut ties if a player's rep hurt the brand, yet gave zero help to actually get those NIL deals. The crowd on X showed no mercy. The consensus? Preying on kids with bad loans destroys any credibility he has on sports. Reddit threads were on fire, calling the whole thing unethical and demanding ESPN cut ties to keep their hands clean, and the cringe just kept coming. In October 2025, things got weird on Time. SportsCenter Times with Elle Duncan. She made a playful pun on his last name, one of the perks. Perk fired back with, "Why take ibuprofen when you can have a perk?" Duncan froze, clearly shocked, before managing, "I literally can't stand you, and I love you." It was awkward live, but on X, it turned ugly. People were tweeting things like, "Bro is trying to get fired," and "That looked uncomfortable, suspend him now." The NBA subreddit even labeled it on-air harassment, turning up the heat on the Fire Him campaign. Duncan later hopped on X to say Perk is her guy and it was just jokes, but the PR disaster was already in motion. Don't forget to asterisk hit that notification bell asterisk so you don't miss the next update. Then came early 2026. On Times NBA Today Perk compared his game to Victor Wembanyama, the 7'4" French alien who was rewriting basketball history. Context didn't matter. The comparison was straight up delusional, and the internet roasted him to a crisp. We're talking nuclear levels of heat. X blew up with fans begging ESPN to mute his mic. It was just another strike on a very long list that fans have been tracking like detectives. Remember his claim that the Timberwolves were tanking to oust their coach? They went on a winning streak days later. Just another entry in the book of bad takes. And when he spoke on Kawhi Leonard retiring, Draymond Green and Baron Davis shut that down, calling it sick, coming from a guy who put up 2.5 points a game during his decline. On Times Road, trippin' asterisk, Perk talked about torching his friendships with LeBron and KD over his harsh critiques, like the Bronny James draft drama. Fans didn't buy the pity party, seeing it as playing the victim. Through the chaos, Perk stays defiantly loud. On Times NBA Countdown Times in February 2026, he told the world, "If ESPN fired me today, I wouldn't lose sleep. Someone in Boston would hire me." That confidence, unmatched. Meant to project swagger, but it backfired spectacularly. Instead of confidence, the internet saw an open target and the meme started flying instantly. Reddit threads and X timelines filled with countdown clocks and mockery. But honestly, this hostility has deep roots that most people forget about. Rewind to the 2021 NBA Finals. Perkins dropped a hot take comparing Giannis Antetokounmpo to Robin while labeling Chris Middleton as Batman. He essentially stripped the Finals MVP of the credit for his own ring. Bucks fans were absolutely livid, but the fallout went way beyond angry tweets. It got dangerous. On the Road Trippin' podcast, Perkins admitted a fan actually threatened the lives of his wife and children over that analysis, forcing ESPN security to hunt the guy down and put him behind bars. Then came the corporate drama. ESPN ordered Perkins, Dan Orlovsky, and Mina Kimes to dump their promo deals with Papaya Gaming. It was a sketchy solitaire app, adding more fuel to the fire that Perkins' business moves were hurting the network's reputation. Fast forward to April 2025, he got busted lying about boycotting the NBA awards. Audio leaked proving he was fibbing, sparking a fresh wave of mockery on X, and renewed calls for his firing. Even his bond with his old squad, the Boston Celtics, turned toxic. He criticized Coach Joe Mazzulla with a bizarre quote, "If you put his brain in a bird, the bird starts flying backward." That insult reportedly got him banned from the 2024 championship parade. And before we get to the player beefs, he was also shut out of the 2025 ring night. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of this NBA drama. The hate isn't just coming from anonymous trolls anymore. It's coming from inside the House Hall of Famers and active superstars. These are guys with resumes that completely overshadow Perkins's, and when they speak, it hits different. It has been a slow, televised demolition of his credibility as an analyst. Charles Barkley has been the loudest critic. In March 2025, after Perk claimed on NBA Today that the Lakers saved the league, Sir Charles lost it on Inside the NBA. He shouted, "I saw a fool and an idiot on TV saying the Lakers saved the NBA. He is an idiot and a fool, but he knows who he is." While Shaquille O'Neal was dying of laughter, Barkley ripped ESPN for obsessing over big markets while ignoring the real stories in Cleveland and Oklahoma City. Perkins clapped back on X with some heat. "Hey, NBA on TNT might want to tell that senior citizen that I'll be around when he sees an idiot in person." Keep that same energy. It was raw, personal, and stemmed from years of tension. Barkley calls it the ESPN disease, that urge to say wild stuff just because the red light is on. He has repeatedly diagnosed Perkins as patient zero. But here's the plot twist. They actually patched it up. If you love a good redemption arc, smash that like button right now. By June 2025, with Barkley eyeing a move to ESPN, they used back channels to talk. Perkins told Stephen A. Smith that his wife made him reach out through Mike Wilbon. It led to a group text where Barkley wrote, "Big Perk, you're doing a great job. Let's stop taking shots during the finals. Let's link up and break bread." Perkins described the peace treaty in his own unique way. "It wasn't nothing but some pork chops when we squashed it." Now, the clash with JJ Redick, that was an intellectual beatdown. On First Take in March 2023, Reddick dissected Perkins' racial bias claims with surgical precision. He went right at the implication that white voters are racist for favoring white players. "We all know what you implied," Reddick said, calling it the single most cringeworthy take of Perkins' career. He dismantled the cherry-picked stats and exposed the massive holes in the logic. It's really weird that a bunch of racist voters would mainly vote for black players except for a handful of times. See how stupid that sounds? Perkins looked genuinely outmatched in that debate. But Draymond Green's war with Perk, that was the ugliest. In June 2022, during the finals, Green hit him with a racial slur on his podcast. Draymond later apologized but added a caveat. "I could have easily said clown instead. I stand on what I meant." Perkins fired back with a seething 2-minute video. "Hey, Draymond, you good? What is wrong with you? Didn't you just win your 4th ring? Why are you worried about me?" The feud sparked up again in October 2024 when Perk suggested Kawhi Leonard should retire. Green blasted the hypocrisy immediately. "I was baffled. The man averaged 2.5 points a game for 3 years straight. Guys like LeBron and KD actually invited Kawhi to their teams. Baron Davis even jumped in with pure, 'That's sick,' coming from Kendrick Perkins. You average 2 points, bro. There's a hierarchy and you ain't in it." Tells the haters to put a sock in it. If you want to witness the sort of fearless commentary that ignites massive feuds, you just have to look at Perkins and his blistering take on Steve Kerr and the Golden State Warriors. When the topic of Jonathan Kuminga came up on the Road Trippin' podcast, Perkins didn't beat around the bush. He pointed the finger squarely at Steve Kerr, period. No fluff, just 4 heavy words. That is the signature. Perkins brand right there. It is bold, unfiltered, and demands your attention. He didn't just say it, he doubled down, practically daring the listeners to prove him wrong before he even explained his reasoning. Before we dive deeper into this heat, go ahead and smash that like button if you love raw sports takes. That attitude makes Perkins a magnet for fans, yet completely unbearable to the stars he criticizes. He argued that other teams are built for both today and tomorrow, while drawing a sharp contrast with the Warriors, claiming they have torched every chance to groom their young guns. He looked at the Warriors and asked, "What future?" asserting they have absolutely nothing in the pipeline. That level of bluntness, the audacity to say a 4-time championship dynasty has zero future, is exactly why Kevin Durant got into it with him. It is why LeBron James hit the unfollow button and why Ja Morant simply brushed him off. Now let's talk about the king of controversy, Stephen A. Smith. If Kendrick Perkins is just a spark, then Stephen A. is the entire hurricane. That brings the thunder. His run at ESPN, stretching over 20 years with a few breaks in between, is defined by an endless engine of drama. This isn't accidental. It is a calculated, combative art form that has turned him into the highest earning voice in sports media, while also making him one of the most polarized figures on American television. If you enjoy deep dives into sports media history, make sure to subscribe to the channel right now. The moment that really set the stage for his career happened back in 2014 during the national outcry over Ray Rice and the domestic assault involving his fiancée, Janae Palmer. On First Take, Smith implied that women needed to be conscious of their role in stopping violence, saying, "Let's ensure we don't do anything to provoke wrong actions." That comment sounded like victim blaming to millions. His ESPN colleague Michelle Beadle called him out publicly, and the network suspended Smith for 1 week. He apologized, but that scandal created a blueprint he would use again and again. Smith drops a massive verbal bomb, takes the heat, offers a slight defense, and comes back stronger, with his job safe and his profile raised by the sheer volume of the attention. It wasn't his first rodeo either. Back in 2010, he shielded Floyd Mayweather from domestic abuse claims by stating, "Men ain't always wrong." That line drew heavy fire, but no real punishment. Then in 2015, he cracked a joke about female soccer players not wanting to ruin their hair, which got labeled as sexist and led to a Twitter apology tour. But his beefs with athletes, that is where things get truly explosive. His war with LeBron James hit a fever pitch in March 2025 when the King actually walked up to Smith courtside during a Lakers-Knicks game at the Garden, telling him to keep his son's name out of his mouth. On First Take, Smith had practically begged LeBron, claiming Bronny James was only in the league due to nepotism. He said, I am pleading with LeBron James as a father. Stop this. Just stop. That courtside clash led Smith to analyze the timing, pointing out it happened right when his own contract news dropped, hinting that the whole thing was staged for clout. On Gilbert Arenas' show, he called the move weak, and on Ryan Clark's podcast, he went as far as accusing LeBron of having a racial bias when choosing which media members to confront. Then there is the Kevin Durant saga, which started in 2015 over rumors about where Durant wanted to play. Durant called him a liar, and Smith clapped back with a warning that is now legendary in the industry. He looked into the lens and said, "You don't want to make an enemy out of me." Those words hung in the air like a mob boss's threat. The way Smith stared down the camera made it obvious. This wasn't just for Durant. It was a message to any athlete thinking about challenging his scoop. When Durant went to the Spez's Warriors in 2016, Smith called it the weakest move by a superstar in NBA history, a narrative he rode for years. They patched things up a bit in 2019, but the truce shattered in 2022 when Durant claimed pundits like Smith, Skip Bayless, and Shannon Sharpe were ruining the game by twisting how players are judged. Smith fired back, claiming analysts are a permanent part of the ecosystem, a statement that felt less like a defense and more like he was marking his territory. Amazingly, his feuds with coworkers are even more savage than his fights with players. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you catch the next update. In early 2024, Smith dropped a scorching 45-minute rant against Jason Whitlock after Whitlock came after his paycheck, called him a backstabber, and accused him of race baiting for fame. Smith actually warned his bosses at ESPN and his own pastor before releasing the audio, which somehow makes it even more terrifying. He also exposed a clause in his contract that specifically banned the two of them from ever sharing a studio, proving the bad blood was deep, legal, and permanent. Talk about bad blood. We just uncovered a secret stipulation in the paperwork that legally prevented these two from ever sharing a microphone or screen time. This confirms that the hatred had been simmering behind the scenes for a long time. If you love these kinds of exclusive reveals, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel right now. Formalized in legal paperwork way before the public ever caught wind of it. But this beef with his former co-host Michelle Beadle, it flared up again in late 2025 after a Sirius XM shakeup saw her show get bumped for his. Beadle didn't hold back, saying she has zero respect for Smith's hustle and refuses to share a studio with him. She pointed to a super petty moment back in 2019 involving a promo for Smith's appearance that aired right on the heels of her emotional farewell on Get Up. Beadle called it a calculated move to establish dominance, a total humiliation tactic. It was the network's way of saying her exit wasn't a loss, just a clearing of the deck. Smith, never one to stay quiet, fired back with a massive rant, claiming she's only criticizing him because she can't land a gig in the industry anymore. He blamed it entirely on her having a quote-unquote stank attitude, pure evil. Beadle had previously labeled Smith a monster who cares more about his brand than actual sports analysis. A jab Smith laughed off as the bitterness of someone whose career hit a wall while is rocketed to the moon. But things get even messier when politics enter the chat. This has stretched Smith's brand way beyond the sidelines and into his own, where the usual hot take rules don't apply. In 2025, Smith basically shrugged off the Jeffrey Epstein client list, claiming regular folks don't care because it doesn't impact their daily grind. That statement, it did not go over well. Fans were furious, accusing him of sweeping child exploitation under the rug. Sports fans even threatened a formal boycott, calling his take absolutely disgusting. He tried to defend himself, arguing that most Americans are just like him, worrying more about their own bills than headlines, but that defense only poured gasoline on the fire. That same year, he tried to link an NBA gambling arrest to a personal vendetta by Donald Trump. A wild theory he actually had to retract after getting roasted online. It was one of those rare times Smith actually backed down instead of doubling down. But by early 2026, he was back in the hot seat, defending Trump's criticism of Bad Bunny's Super Bowl show. It sparked a massive culture war, with Smith claiming that cancel culture was being weaponized against him. He insisted critics were trying to bully ESPN into firing him, painting himself as the victim of a coordinated attack rather than a guy who just read the room wrong. Hey, if you're enjoying this deep dive, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. Now, a Barrett Media analysis. from February 2026 called this the dangerous myth of being untouchable, warning that Smith's confidence in his own job security might actually be his downfall. Despite the drama, Smith's throne at ESPN seems unshakable. His rumored $100 million contract is basically the sun that the rest of the network orbits around. He is the reason First Take gets ratings. He's the reason Kendrick Perkins has a career, and he's the reason ESPN can weather storm after storm without sinking the ship. But let's look at ESPN's history of swinging the axe. For the last decade, ESPN has established a brutal pattern of firings, sudden, sweeping, and often tied to scandals. The reality is, getting terminated for almost any reason is now just part of the game over there. The numbers are terrifying. ESPN's subscriber count has crashed from over 100 million households a decade ago to just about 67 million today. Back in April 2017, they cut about 100 employees, including legends like NBA insider Chad Ford, Mark Stein, and Ed Werder. The 2017 purge didn't just hit the stars, it gutted the staff behind the scenes too, with 20 layoffs right in Bristol, Connecticut. People like Britt McHenry and Jason Stark had to break the news of their own firings on social media, trying to show gratitude while still in total shock. Then, the bloodletting got even worse in June 2023. Roughly 20 high-profile on-air talents were sent packing as part of Disney's cost-cutting crusade. We're talking about Susie Colbert, who had been with the network for 27 years. She called it heartbreaking, but walked away proud of her legacy. Then there was Ashley Brewer, who got laid off literally a week before her wedding. She handled it with class, talking about personal growth. But that timing was cold. The list of analysts they cut reads like a Hall of Fame ballot of the unemployed. Jeff Van Gundy, Max Kellerman, Keyshawn Johnson, Jalen Rose, Steve Young, Matt Hasselbeck, Todd McShay, and David Pollack. ESPN claimed it was about efficiency, not talent. But that's a meaningless distinction when you're clearing out your desk. The overhaul was slammed for targeting veteran voices and fueled rumors that the network was pivoting to cheaper, digital-first talent. And that theory? It looked pretty solid when they handed Pat McAfee $85 million over 5 years, right after showing the door to veterans with decades of experience. And we can't ignore the political landmines. Remember Jemele Hill's 2017 controversy? She called Donald Trump a white supremacist on Twitter, and the White House actually clapped back, which eventually played a huge role in her leaving the network. That incident set a scary precedent. Expressing your personal political views, even on your own social media, can trigger career-ending consequences. Don't forget to hit subscribe for more updates on this developing story. The landscape is shifting fast. Suit and tie layoffs were just the tip of the iceberg. The real story? A massive cleanup operation triggered by scandal that exposed a nasty culture behind the scenes. Back in August 2023, production heavyweight Lee Fitting got the boot following a deep dive by HR into years of supposed bad behavior. Now, Fitting wasn't just some guy, he was the architect behind College Game Day's massive success and the boss of Monday Night Football. But strip away the trophies, and you find over 20 women describing a nightmare workplace under his watch. The details uncovered were precise and straight up creepy. We're talking a 2012 remark linking beer drinking to, let's say, asterisk private times talents. A 2014 moment where he tapped his lap like it was a chair for a female staffer, and texts in 2018 telling an employee, "You look hot." It got so bad that staff reportedly had a buddy system to avoid being alone with him. Fitting's rep denied the claims, and by January 2024, he jumped ship to the WWE. Then there's the Sam Ponder saga, which flipped the script. Her firing times was times the controversy. Before we dive into that mess, smash that like button if you want the Truth Network's hide. Ponder was cut in August 2025 after anchoring Sunday NFL Countdown for 9 years, capping off a 14-year run at ESPN. She broke ceilings as the first woman to lead that show when she took the reins in 21-17. A trailblazer in a field that usually kept women on the sidelines. ESPN claimed her exit along with Robert Griffin III, and Todd McShay was just about saving cash. But Ponder wasn't buying it. She publicly blamed her axing on her vocal stance regarding biological women in sports and the transgender athlete debate. Yet, the rot at the top went way deeper than on-air talent, revealing an organization where bad behavior thrived in the executive suite. Take Rob King, a big shot executive editor at large from the John Skipper days. He was shown the door after allegations of social media harassment hit HR. He tried to claim he retired after nearly 20 years, but leaks screamed fired. The silence from the top, under chairman Jimmy Pitaro, just made things sketchier, reminding everyone of John Skipper's abrupt exit back in 2017 over a cocaine problem. Then in April 2025, exec Christina Douglas was ousted after staff complaints, adding to a chaotic revolving door in management that felt like a car with no brakes. This created a vibe of pure fear among the staff. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss our next deep dive, especially with Stephen A. Smith chasing a $100 million bag. A February 2025 report nailed the problem. Everyone is terrified of getting pink slipped while watching the network dump truckloads of cash onto one or two stars. It made it crystal clear who actually mattered to the brass. Then you have the Pat McAfee circus, which added a whole new level of drama to a broken workplace. Behind the scenes, producers were tearing their hair out over his alleged diva antics and his habit of roasting executives on air with zero consequences. He even publicly blasted former exec Norby Williamson, calling him a rat who was sabotaging the program. The suits protected McAfee as a creative genius, but the staff was fuming. The Ringer called it ESPN's year from hell. And just to keep the streak alive, in January 2026, they fired two veteran tennis voices, sparking anger for ditching experience in favor of a restructure that didn't make the coverage any better. This is the chaotic battlefield Kendrick Perkins is trying to survive on right now. We're talking about a network that's bled out a third of its audience and axed hundreds of people since 2017. A place where bosses get fired for creeping and hosts get cut for their opinions. The mood in Bristol is somewhere between panic and rage. So when you look at Perkins, a guy who has compared his skills to Victor Wembanyama, started a company accused of predatory loans, ticked off NBA Hall of Famers, and then tells the world he would lose zero sleep if they cut him, thinking he's next on the block isn't a wild guess. It's practically a guarantee.